film about? What's it really about? What genre does it take? What is really being said? What's really being seen? That's what you're talking about.
Hello and welcome to the last episode of the intermission for the year 2022. This is the episode where we are going to look back at all the great content that we enjoyed this year, and we're going to do a top 5 in a bit. As always, this is me, Nitin Sundar, and I'm joined by my good friend Naren.
Hey, it's the end of the year, but I think we should really get my name right. My name is Naren, but my call sign is Maverick.
Well, okay, we could have seen that coming from a mile away at Mark 10, or is it Mark 11? Naren, also known as Dodi, is going to be Maverick today, and we're going to get into our 2022 review shortly. But before that, our last episode got a lot of love from a lot of you. It is the episode where we celebrated the superstar Rajnikant's birthday, and we did a whole review of Basha. And it looks like we might have divided the audience into two camps.
Yeah.
The camp that believes that his father said Badusha, and the camp that believes he indeed said
There's Team Badshah and Team Badusha.
So Team Badusha and Team Bahadur Shah. Let's be very clear. Basha Badusha, yes.
Enda, Basha anna periya Badusha nenappa,
I think at this point, Team Badusha seems to be winning in terms of this
winning, yes.
majority and popularity.
It does look like that's indeed what they were going for. They were going for the sweet Badusha for some reason.
What do you mean some reason, Macha? I laid out the reasoning properly. I put full logic. I used Tamil linguistics and all of that and got to the right thing. And then you shot me down. But the people have spoken.
The people have spoken, and Badusha it is. But for some reason, it's not really, it's not caught on. Which is also strange, by the way, because Tamil pop culture really generally catches on, right? Like lots of stuff that Vadivelu has said over the years, or Rajni himself has said, or Vivek has said, have all become part of the lexicon, but for some reason, not Badusha. It is sad.
Yeah, fair enough. But you can make all the excuses you want, Macha, but a non-Tamil speaker has corrected the Tamil speaker here.
Absolutely. Sure. Yeah, I'll take that on the chin, but very glad for all the great reviews and feedback to our Basha episode, and also for all the heated feedback that we got for making this mistake, or what I got for making this mistake.
No, that's a discussion is always what we're here for, so it's all good. We also have a small little clip from one of our listeners, friend of the pod, Barry. He wants to tell us a little bit about the Badusha versus Bahadur Shah conundrum that we've been facing. Here you go.
Basha anna periya Badusha nanapa. So Dodi, you came pretty close when you made that comparison to nee enna periya paruppu nanapa. To clear your confusion, paruppu is not tuar dal. We're not choosing between dal fry and dal tadka, which is apparently a very difficult decision. The paruppu mentioned here are pista, badam, and the expensive ones.
Oh, so pista,
Badusha. Now to understand this, we have to talk about jangiri. Jangiri and jalebi look alike, but are fundamentally different dishes with different recipes, origins, and everything. So it probably gets its name from Jahangir, Jahangiri, Jangri, Badusha. Macha, there is a special place in hell for all the chefs in India who have taken the Badusha recipe and categorically replaced it with the Balushahai recipe. Are Badusha and Balushahai the same? Are Sita and Geeta the same? Are John Ma and Boomer the same? And for all the Rajni fans, are Professor Balu and Shankar the same? Just like Jangiri and Jalebi are not the same, this Balushahai is a dish doused with sweet syrup down to its bloody ugly core. The Badusha, on the other hand, was a layered sweet. The center was bland, and it had this gradient where it led to an outer crystalline sweet sort of crust. I don't know, somewhere over the years, these cooks got lazy and stopped making Badushas and started passing off that lazier Balushahai as a Badusha. And people ate it up, literally. See, I have been searching for 12 years for a good Badusha. The last one I had was in my own wedding. till today, I order at least 1 or 2 Badushas from someone who claims to be selling it. And that wretched Balushahai only shows up, and that too with some random saffron and nut topping that nobody asked for. See, for all those who don't remember, in the 90s, a good Badusha was not something you could just go into a store and order like some entitled bitch. You had to be invited to one of those ceremonies, and the cook in that ceremony had to decide to put it on the menu. Now, coming back to the movie, the chances are that Badusha may have got its name from Bahadur Shah, just like Jahangir, Jahangiri. But Basha gets it from Badshah, which is the Persian word that means emperor. The variants being Pasha, Basha. So just like the purple, in this movie, Badusha was used in the same capacity. So if his name was Pasha, then that age-old alliteration, Pasha na periya purple nanapa would have worked. But his name was Basha, and someone got creative and brought in the Badusha because at that time it was an exquisite sweet. So the next time you go to a restaurant or wherever and order a Badusha and that Balushahai shows up, remember to scream on top of your lungs and ask what the fuck is going on.
What the hell is this? You can't just go and order it like a bitch. Full feelings, man. He's got like, oh, we have to react to this.
Okay, so that was Barry telling us, breaking down the entire Badusha versus Bahadur Shah controversy. I think he's got some unresolved feelings. He does seem to be very emotional about the whole thing. What do you think, Nitin?
Barry na enna periya Badusha nanappa.
Yeah.
Oh man, unbelievable. I mean, firstly, thanks so much to Barry for taking the time out and giving us this dissertation. And
Correct.
as Dodi mentioned, there is a lot of unresolved grief over there at being duped multiple times into eating the godforsaken Balushahi, which I by the way did not know is a different sweet. I thought the Badusha was derived from the Balushahi. Firstly, there are just like a good serving of 90s Badusha. There are many layers to this.
Correct.
To what Barry is saying. Firstly, I must actually revolt here. I am also a South Indian. The Badusha is a terrible sweet, by the way. It's just refined wheat with a lot of... It has sugar, it has all the bad stuff, but it is not... It actually isn't sweet also. Like the Jahangiri, for instance, the Jahangiri. You at least feel the sugar high when you eat that thing, right? It is also a very bad thing to eat. The Badusha just gives you bad stuff without giving you the sweets. Without giving you the sweet feels, right?
Careful. We'll get one more voicemail from Barry. Yelling at
You can't go to a restaurant and order Badusha like a bitch. It has to be in your wedding menu. Only then you get to eat it. Oh my god. Amazing. By the way, full props to you, Dodi. You got the whole pulse angle correct here. The whole
Yeah.
purple
I mean,
angle.
I got the purple angle correct, but I was still sitting in the dal side of things, not the nuts side.
That's okay. Which, by the way, I did mention.
Yeah, you did
To my
mention.
credit, that's probably the only thing I got right in the whole thing.
But that also you mentioned it as an alternate for...
Yes. No, but I brought in the pista angle
yes.
because
Yeah,
you
very
said correct, yeah. And I also said badam as the alternative. I like how Barry also tried and decoded the whole writing room process that was followed.
Yeah.
That brought someone got creative because if name was Pasha, they would have done purple. Barry, you rock. This was so good. Thank you. Awesome.
This is Barry putting his explainer lens. If you want more of Barry's explainers, please go to his website. thisisbarry.com. You can also go to his YouTube channel. Thank you, Barry. We
Thank
will
you, Barry.
have you on the show soon.
Absolutely. Bahadur Shah suffered, but the person who really suffered seems to have been Barry. Too good.
And on to our topic for this episode. So today considering that we've come to the end of the year, we want to look at what's been happening through the year, the kind of content that we've enjoyed. And we just wanted to take this opportunity to talk about specific pieces of content that really stuck with us, that touched us, that felt like they were maybe breaking boundaries or pushing the envelope, and stuff that we really enjoyed throughout the year. Nitin, do you want to talk a little bit about kind of what you were thinking when you were putting the list together?
Yeah, sure. The only parameter I went in with vibes and feels, as I always do. I actually don't remember too much of the year. 365 days is a long time. And also, I'm not someone who watches content very fresh. So I remember the first movie that I watched this year was a movie called Kadaisila Biryani, which means, by the way, biryani at the end. And it's a movie that's half in Tamil and half in Malayalam. I think very unique in that sense. You don't know whether this is a Tamil film or a Malayalam film because the characters and the dialogue are split down the middle.
It sounds like you're describing yourself, Nitin.
Indeed. And except in my case, it is not Kadaisila Biryani, it is Eppovume Biryani. All the time it is biryani. So, with the side of Badusha, of course. My list was not very difficult to make. In fact, I struggled a bit to fill 5 things because I also believe I have very high standards. So a lot of things that I saw did not make the cut.
Did not make the cut.
I'm sure you faced trouble of that kind.
I faced a little bit of that. I think for me, I mean, on the one hand, obviously a whole year, so it starts becoming a little difficult to remember what you watched. And there's always a lot of recency bias. Usually what happens to me is every December, I'm also kind of going through other critics' lists, other critics that I follow. And I find that I've missed something or something else. So there's also a mad rush to try and watch or at least start watching a bunch of things because I've got this kind of block, which you might know about, that once it passes the zeitgeist, once nobody's talking about it, it's very difficult for me to go back and pick it up again. So I'm like, if people are talking about something, at least let me watch 1 or 2 episodes. Even if I finish the show next year, let me start it now, because if I don't, I never will. So December becomes a very chock-a-block month for me usually. First world problems. Of course, there's some things that are just universally loved and acknowledged. But I also wanted to take the opportunity to or shine some light on certain pieces of content that I feel maybe didn't quite break through. Things that I thought were very good, but I don't think everybody else is watching. So I want to also make this a bit of a recommendation as well as a top 5 in that sense.
Excellent. Before we go into that list, quickly for the benefit of our listeners, we originally intended to have a list of 3. And then Dodi kept telling me, hey, Macha, how can we do 3? I need at least 4. Let's make it 5. Let's make it 5 and add honorable mentions. Let's have, okay. I was like, cool, Macha, let's do whatever you want. Let's go for it.
We could have done 10.
Yeah.
In fact, that's how we started the discussion is top 10 and then you said 3. I think we settled at a comfortable 5.
The only reason I requested that we whittle down from 10 is so that we publish the episode in 2022.
Fair enough. So, the intermissions top 5 of 2022, starting now. At number 5, Nitin, you want to go first?
Sure, I can go first. At number 5, I have the Malayalam film Tallumala.
ചീഫ് ഗസ്റ്റ് മണവാളൻ വസീം.
ചങ്ങ ആളവിടെ ഉണ്ടെന്ന് പോലും ആർക്കും അറിഞ്ഞൂടാ. ഇന്റർനെറ്റിന്റെ പരിസരത്ത് പോലും മൂപ്പരില്ല.
ആളെ തപ്പും ഇങ്ങടെ എത്തിക്കും.
I don't know if you got a chance to see this film, Dodi.
Has been on the list.
So, Tallumala, it literally means a garland of fights. Tallu literally means push, shove, fight in Malayalam.
Okay.
Mala, of course, is garland. So, it's, a sequence of fights is what it means. Wikipedia is a little more poetic. It translates Tallumala to Ballad of Brawls. Okay.
Oh.
So, which sounds pretty cool, right? Directed by Khalid Rehman, produced by Ashik Usman. The film stars Tovino Thomas in the lead role and a bunch of others, notably Shine Tom Chacko, Lukman Avaran and Kalyani Priyadarshan. It is unlike any film that I've ever watched before in Malayalam or in any other language, right? I don't know how to describe this movie. It's a riot from start to finish. There are many attempts in popular Indian cinema to recreate, Tarantino, to recreate Guy Ritchie, to pay homage to these guys and make movies in their style, right? This movie goes beyond trying, right? But it definitely comes across as a movie that has, the Guy Ritchie ethos at its core. You take the best bits of Snatch and Lock, Stock and bring it into a rooted Kerala sort of setup. That's what Tallumala is. It's a movie we all need to watch and probably then rewatch. The movie had been recommended to me by the father of this podcast, Mithun Sundar, my brother, the common thread between Dodi and me, who watched it, liked it very much, recommended that I watch it, and then also watched it again with me when I was watching it, right? And I could see through his eyes that he was enjoying it all the more the second time he was watching it. So this movie is literally, as the description goes, a series of brawls. It also is, it's a very non-linear movie. Very often you have a brawl and the middle of the money punch where the fist is, about to smash into somebody's nose. There is a cut and a flashback starts, which then explains how did those people get into that fight? How did they get there? Right, and this keeps happening. So it's a fairly discombobulating film in that sense, right? If you're trying to follow the thread of what's going on, it can get a little difficult. But very soon into this film, you also realize this film is not really about keeping track of the plot. It's not really about keeping track of the sequence of events, etc. It's more about being a part of the journey that these people are going through, the fights that they're having, the way they patch up, and then they gang up together to go and beat somebody else who used to be a friend of one of the people in the past with whom they had a biryani sometime in the past. There are a couple of action sequences in this film. Both would probably rank in at least Indian Cinema Hall of Fame when it comes to action. Okay. And by the way, Malayalam films are not really known for stylized action, right? It's that's not their thing. Their thing is more the drama is probably where, and slice of life drama is really what Malayalam cinema excels at. Action is not their forte, but this movie just takes all of that and throws it out of the window. So obviously our show is called The Intermission, which is a reference to the term interval block, which is very, very popular in at least in Tamil cinema. This movie has the interval block to kill all interval blocks. It has the mother of all interval blocks. And I have to describe it. Right? It happens in a cinema hall. It's a brawl that breaks out in a cinema hall. And not like a multiplex style cinema hall, but a single screener in a small town in Kerala. The movie that is screening as this interval block, as this brawl breaks out in the cinema hall, is Vikram Vedha. And the scene where Vijay Sethupathi gets introduced in Vikram Vedha, where Kevin Spacey style, he walks into the police station and surrenders himself, goes down on his knees. That is the scene that's playing on the screen. And something, I don't want to get into the details of why people are fighting, but it's a normal movie screening, and then there are two groups of people. The reason why they get into a fight itself is very absurd. In the next 5 minutes, you have every single human being inside that cinema hall throwing blows at each other or diving evasively, and the choreography is just next level, right? There is not a single person on screen who is not doing something. It's amongst the most kinetic stunt sequences you will ever watch. And then there is another one in the second half. It comes towards the end of the film, and it happens in a marriage hall. That would be a worthy number 2 to this one. So I could spend an hour talking about this movie, and it would be very incoherent, like the movie itself. So I don't want to try doing that. But yeah, it makes it easily into my list.
Noted and sold. So I'll come back and report on that.
Right. So Tallumala was my number 5 for the year. Over to you, Dodi. What is the entry drug to your top 5 list?
Yeah, good way to put it. So first of all, I need to say that my number 5 is a tie. This is my way of trying to put more into the number
fraud. Go for it.
This is my way of trying to make my top 5 into a top 10. But yeah, number 5 is a tie. First, they're both TV shows. First I want to talk about is Derry Girls. Yeah. It's a 3-season show. It ended this year, sadly. And one of the 3 shows on my list that ended this year. Great shows, I think, that I really have been enjoying for a while.
Yeah.
And we finally said goodbye to 5 Irish kids: Erin, Orla, Claire, Michelle, and her cousin James. 4 of them are girls, and you'll notice that James is a boy's name, but he's a part of the Derry Girls, which is also running joke from the first episode till pretty much the end.
Yeah, the poor guy has the worst deal on the planet. I watched the first 2 or 3 episodes of Derry Girl. I didn't go too deep into it, but yeah, the cousin brother's life, I did feel bad for him.
I'm going to give away a little bit spoilers for Derry Girls. The second season ends with his mom coming and trying to take him back to England.
Okay.
And it's sad, and they're all, even though they're scolding him and yelling at him and saying we don't like you and all of that, there's a lot of sadness in it.
I'll never forget this place. I have to go home now. It's time. Goodbye, girls.
Goodbye, girls. Why's the fuck up?
What do you want me to say? Anyway, it's not like I belong here. I never did.
That's not true. You're a Derry girl now, James.
Hey, shut up.
I'm serious. It doesn't matter that you've got that stupid accent or that your butts are different to my butts. Well, because being a Derry girl, what's a fucking state of mind? Azim! You're facing the wrong way, Orla. No, look, at James. What's he saying? I don't know.
I am a Derry girl!
I remember watching that episode and I was also cheering at the screen saying, I'm a Derry girl.
So are you saying he didn't get out of the train and come back to Ireland? Very bad.
No, there was no train, but yeah, he does come back and he's there for the next season as well.
Oh, he's back.
But
Okay,
he's back. He's back.
Okay.
And reminds me of my teen years. A lot of the same songs, especially. The music has a lot of the music that we were listening to in the mid-90s. I don't know if you remember, the pilot actually has Michelle talking about a movie she watched over the summer, which had a lot of the word motherfucker in it. She's talking about Pulp Fiction, basically.
Yes. I remember that. Yeah.
So it's a lot of that stuff. And of course, set against the backdrop of the troubles in Ireland. The show, in fact, ends with the signing of the Good Friday Agreement and the peace accords. It was kind of difficult to say goodbye. It's one of those shows that it's very easy to watch again. It's a lot of fun. I think the most fun part of it for me was the fact that it reminded me a lot of the kind of stuff that we used to do when we were in school and high school. So saying bye to that.
I don't know enough, but just checking with you is, though this movie is about kids, right? School kids. I'm guessing that it is very popular with people of an older generation, largely because of the nostalgia factor. Yeah.
Largely because of the nostalgia factor. There's a huge music budget on the show. A lot of the songs on the show are very popular songs from the mid-90s. And it anyway works for... The hijinks are still the same, right? Kids may have cell phones today and maybe different kinds of things they want to do, but it's the same stuff. You're trying to escape from your parents. You're trying to... you make up a story that you're at a friend's place, but you're somewhere else. So all of the, the constructs are still the same. So it works even for kids of today's generation. But yeah, lots of fun and sad to say bye. But there it is. Goodbye to the Derry Girls. My second number 5 is another show which features a young female protagonist. This is Miss Marvel from the MCU. So Miss Marvel is the story of Kamala Khan. She's a Pakistani American girl in New Jersey who ends up getting some powers that are related to the Captain Marvel family of powers. An entry from the MCU trying to move into other spaces. They already did, they're trying to move away from the standard white American concept. They started with Black Panther, they've gone to Shang-Chi, and now they're with the South Asian demographic with Kamala Khan and Miss Marvel. For me, really, the show is it's 2 shows in one. One part of it is basic teen coming of age issues with parents, similar to some of the stuff we were talking about for Derry Girls as well.
Yeah.
And the second part of the show is a superhero show where she's got powers and there's bad guys and there's like a mythology and whatever else. For me, the mythology stuff, at least the power side of it, didn't work very well. The villains were not properly sketched out, but the family drama side was A+, like the kind of stuff that they do within the family. The parents are supportive. Actually, they're not obstacles. I mean, she sees them as obstacles, but they are helpful and supportive and encouraging of their daughter. And there's a lot of stuff around being a girl. She has an elder brother who gets to do everything, and she, brings that up. She says if he wanted to go to a comic book convention, you would have let him, but because it's me, you don't let me. And, a lot of this stuff comes in.
I've never even seen them like that.
Like what? Like mad?
Hurt. And I think it made my dad cry. Maybe I spend too much time with fan art and costumes and with my head stuck in fantasy land, so... He's dressing up as Captain Marvel's weird.
No, it's not.
And it's childish, and I know that, okay? And let's be honest, it's not really the brown girls from Jersey City who save the world.
Sure they do. You're Kamala Khan.
It's very nicely done. The show would have been much higher if it was just a teen drama that didn't have superhero stuff in it.
So you're telling me that you liked a Marvel show, but for all the reasons that Marvel
Yes.
isn't actually known for. So you're telling me Marvel got the Marvel parts of this wrong, but they
Yes.
got the other parts of it right, which is interesting. Yeah.
Which is interesting, very surprising and interesting. One thing I want to bring up, the girl in the center, Pakistani Canadian girl, if I'm not wrong, I think she's Canadian, Iman Vellani. She's a find. She's got so much character. She's so magnetic on screen, like you will want to keep watching her. This entire show, every time I watched an episode, within a day I would rewatch it again just to watch her doing all the things that she's doing.
Yes.
And the other big thing that I wanted to bring up about the show is the defining incident is rooted all the way in the partition.
Yeah. I remember reading about that. Yeah.
So I think that was pretty powerful. I mean, obviously this is not an Oscar-winning movie made by documentarian type of filmmaker. So I'm not saying this is highly accurate, but I think it was quite powerful to watch the partition being depicted on, a canvas like the MCU and to see that being a part of a defining story for one of our characters. So I found that really moving. There's a whole episode that's set among her great grandparents, how they meet just before partition and how they get separated during partition, and it's quite moving, and I think overall it's really powerful. I can see why African Americans who watched Black Panther got so excited. I can see why Asians who watched the Shang-Chi got so excited. It's the same kind of feeling. It does matter to see our skin and our songs and our music and our culture being depicted on canvas the size of the MCU.
So I'm going to ask you a controversial question then, right?
Yeah.
Is this MCU trying to clean up their history, as you said, right? It used to be a very white-centric sort of enterprise. Or is it them pandering to as much of humanity as they can? Because, like you mentioned, they've gone after Asia, Africa, and now South Asia as well.
I would say it's a bit of both, right? On the one hand, you want to correct what you've done before. Obviously, you're also trying to start expanding into newer markets. There's not much left for that. It's not like we weren't watching MCU stuff anyway, and we wouldn't have watched it no more, so it's fine. But I think as a storyteller, it's interesting, or even as an audience, it's interesting to see different views of, like I said, it's still teenage drama, it's still family drama, but then you have something like the partition coming. And again, coming back to something else we spoke about when we were talking about Watchmen, we spoke about the Tulsa Race Massacre. It's similar. I've seen reviews of people saying, I've heard that there's something called the partition, but I didn't know what it was. A lot of Americans writing like that, even our more established critics talking about not really having much knowledge or understanding of history outside of the US. So all of that helps in some way. One of the really powerful things that I saw in the show was the brother gets married. When that Kabul hai happens for a Muslim marriage, they all joyously say Allahu Akbar. Till date, you've only seen that being said in Western shows or TV or movies. When some terrorist is about to blow something up, it's become a phrase and it just means God is great.
Yeah,
sure, you might or might not be religious, but that's what the phrase means. It has no other real connotation beyond that, but it's become this phrase of fear. And I think it was really touching and moving to see that phrase being used joyously by our main heroine.
Yeah.
A flawed show, but had enough good things in it, and I think something that our audience can also try out. So that was my number 5.
Your number
And
5s. Yeah.
5s. Yes.
All right then. So, like, you've taken a few liberties with the rules and swung in 2 contenders for number 5. I've also taken a few liberties with the rules. Like we said early on, this is about content that we watched this year. So I'm going to take a little bit of liberty here. I'm actually going to my number 4 is comfort food. I don't think there's anyone who's listening to this podcast who has not watched this piece of content in the past, in the distant past. I happened to watch it yesterday and today, in fact. So this made it to my list pretty much a couple of hours before we recorded.
Oh.
I'm going to talk about Home Alone.
Where are you going? We're gonna miss the plane!
When the McAllister family left on their Christmas vacation,
Did we miss the flight? No, you just made it.
they forgot one small thing.
Have yourself
I've a terrible feeling.
troubles will be out.
Kevin!
This is my house. I have to defend it.
He's a kid. I mean, what can a kid do to us?
Kids are stupid.
You know, I got a feeling this is going to be your best Christmas ever.
A family comedy without the family. Home Alone.
Nice.
Parts 1 and 2, right? I think the movies don't require any introduction. It's a movie that we've been meaning to watch, or at least my wife Shruti has been meaning to watch with our son Milan over the last, I would say, couple of years. It's something that she always look forward to doing in the holiday season. We tried again yesterday, and he totally got into it, right? He was jumping and whooping and hooping with joy as Kevin Macaulay Culkin was pulling off his pranks on Joe Pesci and the other guy whose name I don't actually know. The other guy with Joe Pesci. It's really a bad thing to have on your epitaph. So we will add his name in the show notes maybe. The movie still works. I mean, yeah, and as a family viewing experience, it was terrific, right? And I just went back and checked on IMDb. I was 5 years old, I think, when the first part came out. And my mom recalled watching the first part with me when I was a child. So, yeah, all sorts of warm feelings, fuzzy feelings, especially at this time of the year watching it. But what really got me about this film when I was rewatching it now is about how much the world and the way adults look at the world has changed. Firstly, Home Alone really is a cartoon masquerading as a movie, and I think that's why it works, right? A lot of the action, the pranks that get pulled off are straight out of Tom and Jerry. Even the way Joe Pesci slips and falls, and the way he gets hurt, all of that is straight out of Tom and Jerry. You don't get to see that kind of physical comedy, I think, in movies coming out these days. I don't think people make movies for children the way they used to. They make a lot of what gets made for children is, special effects, it's animation, it's cartoons, etc. I don't know if they make these sorts of movies anymore, or maybe they do, and I don't know if they really get as successful as they do. The access that children have to good content at their fingertips also is a lot more, and all of that. So maybe such content, maybe is not getting greenlit, and if it does, probably doesn't really end up doing too well or spreading too far. So watching Home Alone now, and I could think of a bunch of other movies that became popular, right? At least in India, they were very popular. You had Baby's Day Out in the late 90s. You had Dunstan Checks In, which I think ran only in India. It was a flop everywhere.
Dunstan Checks In, starring Jason Alexander.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah, you're right. It's I think so. Yeah, he is at the hotel. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, indeed.
By the way, if he's not, we'll cut this out.
No, we won't.
But I think he was. Oh, now you want revenge for the Badshah side of things.
No, even I remember this. I think you're right. Jason Alexander is there. Yeah, and so the other guy, the Joe Pesci partner, will now be like, they're remembering random people who weren't even in this movie. They were
who weren't even in the movie.
Weren't even in this movie anyway. Weren't even in the other movie that they were referencing while talking about this movie, which itself should not even be in a top 5 in 2022. Anyway, yeah, we're really sorry, Mr. Joe Pesci's right-hand man, the tall guy with the beard. But the other thing that struck me about this was there is so much in Home Alone that even if it were made today, wouldn't pass off into a kid's movie. Some of the violence is so graphic. I know it's comic graphic, it's comic violence, but I mean, he gets branded with a hot iron. You have a flaming torch that burns off hair on Joe Pesci's head, and he has a bald patch, with a burnt bald patch on top of his head. They step on nails all the time. They're walking on glass. There's a spider that's put on, Joe Pesci's friend's nose. All kinds of stuff, right? And children love it, of course. I mean, we all grew up watching stuff of this kind. In fact, this was a kid's movie, right? Let's be very clear. It is a kid's movie.
It is.
But I don't know if the way we look at movies now, I don't know if this movie would have... I don't think it would be considered... it would be difficult to pass a movie. I don't know how exactly the whole censor process works anymore. But seeing
it would work. It would not be... Yeah, it would not be censored, but I think even the makers would find different kinds of stunts or different sillier things to do that would not look as violent or painful.
Exactly.
I think those choices will change a little bit. I did want to say that because you brought this up, you should obviously have a chat with your son about the fact that this is a movie and these things are not okay.
Or maybe not, because our parents did not have that conversation with us, right? When we watched this movie. In fact, forget this movie, right? I grew up watching...
We watched a lot worse,
Yeah, I grew up watching Apurva Sagodharargal, which is Appu Raja. I'm sure most of our audience know of this movie. And when you think of this movie as whatever a 30, 40-year-old person that you are today, you're not thinking of it as a graphically violent film. But you go back and watch it now and ask yourself whether you would let your 5-year-old kid watch that movie, and the answer would be no. And as a parent, I don't know what the right answer is, right? Should I be showing Appu Raja to my son? Should I wait till he's in his teens? Because, I mean, we all watched that stuff when we grew up. We didn't become violent homicidal maniacs, did we? I don't know about you. But and there's so much about the way parenting has changed, right? Like, of course, the world has changed. It's not as safe as it used to be. It's more crowded. It's more populated. There are more cars out there. How many of our kids actually go out cycling on the streets anymore, right? For a variety of reasons, they don't.
That's also evolution, right? I don't think saying we didn't turn into homicidal maniacs, so it's okay is the thing. But it's more about you learn, you get better, and you're trying to find better ways to talk about things or to contextualize correctly.
Yeah.
I think there's a way to make, like we were discussing, a Home Alone for today, which would have had more or less the same amount of fun and everything else, but the kinds of stunts, the kinds of things would have been a little more. And that's just changing with the times. That's not really anything else. That's just modifying the same storyline for today.
For me, really, I know it doesn't make sense to be recommending Home Alone, but I really think rewatching Home Alone now, I'm sure a lot of us don't do it, or we don't do it consciously. I think if you put on, if whoever is still not cut their cord, if they turn on Star Movies, if that channel still exists, I'm sure it's playing right now. But I think it's totally worth rewatching it with new lens, just to see what it means now, right? To watch that film and how the world around us has changed, and how that movie still, by the way, it's a fantastic. Yeah, definitely recommend it at this time of every year, but definitely this year.
Good pick. And I do want to say I'm glad you're also bending the rules, so I don't have to feel bad about being the only one bending the rules.
So how many contenders at number 4, dude?
No, the rest are all ones. Just this one I moved around.
Then you're good.
My number 4 is a TV show called Reservation Dogs.
Yep.
This is a show set on a Native American reservation in the US, in Oklahoma. It follows 4 teenagers as they grapple with untimely death of a friend of theirs. The show starts with just after the death of that friend, and the 4 of them make a pact to go to California because that's where that friend wanted to go, and they say, we have to find a way to go to California and honor his memory, and that's basically the crux of the show. Creatively produced by Taika Waititi. Even if some of his current work is getting a little stale for my taste, Thor, Love and Thunder, for example, was almost bordering on unwatchable.
I'm going to say that I didn't even like Ragnarok, so there you go.
Okay, fair. There you go, fine. But at least good that he's using his newfound rep to allow or to help shepherd other kinds of stories that wouldn't otherwise get told. Reservation Dogs is pretty much staffed by Native Americans all through. It's made by this guy called Sterling Harjo, who's also used to be a comedian at one point in time and has been a TV writer for a while now. The show is perfectly straddling comedy, heartbreak, information for that matter, just like showing us how things work on a reservation, what it means to grow up in a place like that with much lesser resources than anybody else would have, but also being superbly funny, using a lot of the music that comes out of there. It's different kinds of music. Again, their version of rap, their version of, rock, and doesn't forget where it's from. So it's very content to even go into, spirits and things like that. So, but they make fun of that as well. So from a kind of modern perspective of one of our main characters, every time he goes to sleep or he blacks out, not every time, but every now and then, there's this spirit that comes and speaks to him, which has been a trope for donkey's years for all kinds of content that we've been watching, where, a Native American spirit with some name like some brave horseman or whatever.
The bear's toenail or something.
Aho! Young warrior!
Are you Crazy Horse or sitting?
No. I'm not one of those awesome guys. No, I'm more of your unknown warrior. Yeah. You know my name? William Knifeman. And now I'm meant to travel the spirit world, find lost souls like you. The spirit world. It's cold. My nipples are always hard. I'm always hungry.
Got it.
Nah, I'm just fucking with you. But for real though, listen to what I said. Marinate on it. Oh.
Okay.
You want to tell everybody why you're laughing?
The interval block of the show is Dodi's cat. Which cat was that one, Dodi?
This is Lori.
Lori's tail is waving in front of Dodi's face across the camera. Yeah.
You can't even see Lori, you can only see his tail walking past.
Yeah.
Thank you, Lori. What did I say? Yeah, so, even the trope of a spirit coming and giving advice, they make fun of that, they use it and they make fun of it.
As Dodi says, spirit coming and giving advice, that white tail is waving right across again. Okay, we have to upload the video.
The recent season had one episode entirely dedicated to the passing of one of the grandmothers. And we were talking about funerals when we were talking about Black Panther. You get a look at how, in a Native American context, they do the death. Everybody lands up. There's a lot of food. Again, I don't think there was dance, but there was a lot of food. And there's a lot of games and people sitting together and just being part of it and talking about the person. And they've not died yet. They're on their deathbed and they're, on their way out. But the entire kind of community lands up and helps with everything that's happening in the house. There's a beautiful side episode that goes off into all of the moms and the aunties of the reservation go for a convention, a work convention, to another city, and they're staying in a hotel and, they're flirting with everybody in that convention and they're having fun. So the entire episode suddenly just forgets the 4 kids that we have and it goes off into this other thing, and they're all happy to just be away from their kids and they're happy to be away from all the drama, day-to-day drama. But I would just say a very distinctive way of telling stories that we've heard before. And it kind of touches upon something we were talking about earlier in this year when we were saying you need to learn how to watch or how to consume content told by somebody whose stories you haven't heard before. Maybe the way they tell a story is different. Maybe the syntax or the grammar of that story is different. Yeah. So this also touches that, while it kind of fits some of our known structures of, the hero's journey or whatever it might be, you expect that this would happen at this point in a comedy or in a drama or whatever else. This show plays around with that just because that's the way they tell stories and it's fine. You go along for the ride and you enjoy it. Yeah. So, you have to give yourself to the storyteller in some sense. But yeah, very, very funny, devastating show that also lingers long after each episode is there. I find myself coming back to, and that might be a common thread among a lot of my list is just stuff that I'll out of context think about and remember and, still feel the feelings I felt when I first watched it. Like this season ends on a very beautiful note. I was weeping, watching, characters, in the show go through that ending. But happy weeping.
Okay.
Anyway.
Am I sensing some dust in the air in your eyes?
Oh, it'll come. But, yeah. But anyway, that's Reservation Dogs. I implore everybody to watch this show. It's a wonderful, beautiful, funny, heartbreaking, devastating. Isn't
the show named Reservation Dogs as a hat tip to Reservoir Dogs?
Yes.
As well? Yeah.
Yes. Yes, had tipped to Reservoir Dogs. In fact, the original poster is all of them walking away from the funeral, and they're all wearing suits, and they're walking away, and black suits and black tie, and that's the original poster and setup.
So Dodi's first 3 picks today are Irish teenagers going through growing up pangs, followed by Pakistani Canadian teenagers going through growing up pangs, and now we have indigenous American teenagers going through growth pangs as well. So am I sensing a pattern there, Dodi? Interesting. Let's see if your number 3 breaks the pattern. I've not watched Reservation Dogs. It has been on my list, but I just haven't got to it, and honestly I haven't watched enough content this year, but it is on my list. I'll hopefully get to it sometime next year, so maybe my 2025 year-end list will have season 1 of Reservation Dogs.
Okay, your number 3.
For my number 3, I'm going to go with White Lotus season 2. Recently aired and recently finished. And firstly, have you watched the show? I know that you hadn't when...
So I watched the first 2 episodes of the first season when it came out. Somehow didn't click for me.
It doesn't have it has a few teenagers going through growth pangs.
Yes. I have been told to push at least till episode 4, so I will do that. That's on the list before the year ends to finish White Lotus, at least season 1, at least till episode 4. Anyway, that's me. Go ahead, tell me what you like about this.
In fact, if I think it didn't work for you in 2 episodes, White Lotus probably wouldn't work for you. Because I remember being hooked by the show in the very first, I would not even say first episode, I think the first 20 minutes of the show. As I understood the premise and saw the central characters, and I'm talking about the first season here. What came out this year was the second season. The premise of the show, for people who don't know, it's a show about the 1%ers, or probably even the 0.5%ers. It's a bunch of rich people, different families or different groups of people who land up on one holiday resort. The first one was shot in Maui, and I believe apparently they chose a destination so that it would be easier to enforce COVID protocols and shoot at one shot. And I think that probably made...
I'll just add a little bit of flavor to that. Not just this shows the destination. Basically, Casey Bloys, the head of HBO, in the middle of pandemic, calls Mike White and says, "We're running out of content because we can't shoot anymore. Can you come up with something that happens
got it.
in an enclosed single space or whatever that we can then shoot?" So it was born out of the requirement of the pandemic, and he said, "Okay, let's set it on a resort. Therefore, everybody's on that island, and then that's it, that's closed, and then we'll make the story." So it started backward, in fact.
Interesting. So the show is a sign of our times in more ways than one. That was the first season. It was shot in Maui. The second season was shot in Italy. The cast of characters did not repeat, except for a couple of people who showed up in the first season. There is a death or a series of deaths that you learn about at the start of the show, and then it sort of flashes back to see what exactly happened during that holiday. Who died? You don't know who died, actually. That's the best part of this. A lot of the show is, are they going to kill this person? Are they going to kill that person? And then you figure out what happens, right, as the show goes. It is a show about the human condition in its own way. There are 2 kinds of hate watching that happen today, right? One is the whole cringe watch, hate watch thing, where people watch shows like your Dubai Bling or Famous Lives of Bollywood Wives, etc.
Yeah.
People watch this. They secretly like it, but they don't want to admit they do. So, when they meet in weekends and they're all talking about these shows, they're like, "Oh, did you watch that terrible episode of XYZ?" Right? Which itself is its own form of commentary on how we lead our lives. And then there is content that is inherently about someone who is dark, or about people who are dark or despicable, right? These aren't necessarily anti-heroes. We're not talking about anti-heroes here. Those have been around, right? And that's a very different genre of content, because the anti-hero gives you enough reason to get behind him or her and to get invested in their journey despite their nature, and you're invested in their success. Many shows that fall into that mold. But this is different, right? These are actually shows that are about people who literally don't have any redeeming qualities. You hate them to their core, and you're not invested in their success, right? But you watch them because they're despicable and because they're entertaining. And you have a spate of these shows that have come out now, right? So there is obviously Succession, which also now finished their 3rd season, I think, this year. You have Schitt's Creek, very popular. You have White Lotus. And many, many years back, you had Seinfeld, which, in a sense, subscribes to the same philosophy, right? Well ahead of its time. The fact that these shows are coming out now, right? These shows which are about people that you can hate. right?
Yeah.
It's its own sort of commentary
Yes.
as well, right? And I think there's something to be something to be unearthed over there, right?
Yes.
And White Lotus is perfectly that. It's a show. It works at multiple levels, right? Like I said, it's a show about 1%ers, even 0.1%ers. In fact, really, right? When we watch them, we like to convince ourselves that we are not those people, right? But the reality is, anyone with a streaming subscription today is much closer to the people in these shows than they are to the people who are actually not watching this content or don't have access to that content. The surface level reading on this show is that, there are people with power, there are people with money, they abuse it, they get away with it, they don't live by the rules that apply to normal people, to the rest of the world. They throw money at whatever problem that comes their way, right? It allows us to be critical of such people and their behavior. It even allows us to take the moral high ground and feel good about ourselves. We may not be as rich, but at least we are moralistic and decent in the way we lead our lives, right? Sparkling dialogue, sparkling wit. Like I said, it is a commentary on the human condition at the end of the day. Wonderfully enacted, by the way. Great actors across the board. Literally at the end of the show, there wouldn't be a single character that is fundamentally decent, right? That's the best part. And both seasons of the show actually set up one or two characters as the nice people that you could get behind. But right at the end of the show, you find out that they also are pretty much as tarred as everyone else in that show is, right? And so there is a grandson, for instance, and spoilers here for White Lotus season 2. There is a grandson in this episode. So the father, the grandfather, and the grandson together are doing this holiday. Very, very dysfunctional, completely broken, comically dysfunctional family that is super rich. Almost all 3 generations in that family almost end up sleeping with the same hooker on during the holiday. So that grandson comes very close to being, that one redemptive soul in this whole group, until he also actually reveals himself to be someone who will use circumstances and power to exploit someone else and get what he wants. Yeah, just a wonderful show. Great fun. Holds a mirror to us. And you could read it the way you want to. You could watch it and feel holier than thou and happy about yourself, or you could watch it and feel that it's holding a mirror to yourself. I think it works very well both ways. And I hope they keep making these shows. And like you said right at the start, a show born out of COVID. So reflective of the times we live in multiple ways.
So my number 3. Again, another show that ended this year. This is a show that came back after 4 years to do 2 seasons this year. This is Atlanta, Donald Glover's Atlanta.
Yeah. Yes.
So they did the first 2 seasons way back when. They took a break and they wanted to come back with season 3 and 4, which they were going to shoot side by side, but then COVID happened, so they still did it, but it took much longer. And so this show has actually come back after 4 years, and they had season 3 early in the year and season 4 just a couple of months ago. Show about Donald Glover's character Earn, who moves back, drops out of Princeton and moves back to Atlanta to help manage his cousin's up-and-coming rap career. A cousin called Alfred, who's known as Paperboy,
who's quite hilarious.
Yes, that's Brian Tyree Henry. I mean, this show brought him to prominence, and you will see that he's just taken over in the last few years.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
He's absolutely everywhere. He's one of the finest actors. In fact, even then when he came out, I was like, in 5 years, this guy will win an Oscar or at least be nominated. He should have been nominated 2 years ago for, he has a one scene turn in If Beale Street Could Talk. This is the Moonlight director Barry Jenkins. Masterful. This year he's in a movie called Causeway with Jennifer Lawrence.
Okay.
Again, great role. I think this is the year to at least get nominated for supporting actor for him. Atlanta started off being this rap comedy drama, but then just started going everywhere. Super surrealist, completely skewering everything in pop culture, memes, the whole idea of wokeness. It's a completely black show, but they are just as fine poking holes at people who want to so-called do good, the over woke people, they equal opportunity skewering of everybody around. And it jumps from everywhere, like, some episodes are all of them doing some kind of shenanigans, some episode is suddenly what if reparations actually happened, and it's about some white guy who's struggling to pay back because the reparations are happening and his taxes are getting cut or whatever. Right. And it goes to all sorts of absurd lengths, but super funny. incisive. A lot to talk about with each episode if you watch it week to week. So season 1 and season 2 was largely set in Atlanta. Season 3 they went to Europe earlier this year, and that was set on a Paperboy European tour. Again, just trying to place the African American experience in the middle of Europe and the kind of craziness that happens there. But season 4 they came back home, and the finale was, shows try to do different things with their finales sometimes. You know, they try to bring everything to a close or whatever, or they do something that's out of ordinary for the show itself, because a week to week show is suddenly ending, so it might not follow the format. But Atlanta ended on an episode that could very well have been just one more episode of the show. It had everything that it didn't even try to be the end of Atlanta. It was just doing what Atlanta does best. Wonderful performances, and not just Brian Tyree Henry, Donald Glover, of course. Atlanta and This Is America kind of blew up around similar time. But the other two main characters, Darius, played by Lakeith Stanfield, also has been appearing left, right, center, everywhere. Van, played by Zazie Beetz, also has been turning up in all sorts of movies and TV shows. So I think it's been great for them. I think that was one of the reasons why it was getting delayed as well. Once season 2 crossed and they were taking a break, it became difficult for them to get all the actors together, because
they've all become big. They've all broken through.
The show can be surrealist, show can be absurdist. It just goes anywhere. Week to week, you did not know what to expect from this show. It would suddenly go off into some documentary of Disney, some fake documentary of Disney where a black guy accidentally becomes the CEO of Disney, and then what happens to Disney of all places. And then it'll come back to, usual hijinks, some rapper beef is happening.
I remember this. Yeah, I remember it doing this kind of stuff. I think I saw 1.5 seasons a couple of years back, and then for some reason didn't stick on. Yeah, so that's another piece of content to get back to.
I think just interesting to see that the show would do anything and everything, and you did not know what to expect week to week. So
yeah, I think those are the best shows, right? The shows that really go, and that's, I think, again, something that's happening now a lot more than earlier. The shows just completely breaking the mold. I May Destroy You. I'm sure we'll be talking about Barry briefly. Another show that does that.
Okay, that was my number 3, Atlanta.
We're on to my number 2 then, and I sort of know what is coming from you with your number 2 and number. It'll be fun if both of us are leaving something for the other, and hence I don't know. Actually, that might happen. If that happens,
okay.
I know what your number 1 is. I hope your number 2 is what I think it is. If not, well.
Oh, this is good fun pressure. But
okay,
it is what it is. Okay.
Yeah, my number 2 is Vikram. I'm sure there are a couple of things that we're talking about today, which came first in 1986.
One thing is definitely missing. Sorry. Now, I was expecting 3 things to come out of your top 3. So,
okay.
They didn't turn up, so now you have only 2 left, and one of them has turned up. I was expecting Vikram. Okay, we've lost one thing. Fine, we'll talk about it. But, yeah, Vikram.
Cool. Vikram is my number 2 for the year, really, because it is comfort food at its best. It is definitely not in the top 10, top 15, top 20 Kamal Haasan movies. Probably not in the first top 30 Kamal Haasan movies that I've watched. Definitely.
Maybe not top 40 or 50.
I don't know if I watched so many Kamal Haasan movies, but it is definitely not up there. It was a monster hit commercially, with adjusted to purchasing power parity, probably his biggest hit. The trailer came out, I think, a couple of years before the movie came out, which features this guy, the ghost, and he's in a house somewhere in the middle of nowhere. It looks like a hill station, and he's prepared a feast, right? And he's serving a feast, and then a bunch of masked people, look like politicians, get into that house, and they sit to eat. And then, this guy, the chef, the master chef, says, pulls out a couple of hacksaws, or axes actually, from below his table. Anyway, what he serves all those potential villains is, by the way, that scene doesn't come in the movie. It's a bit of a disappointment. What he serves there is a proper Tamil style South Indian feast. I think the movie was like that. It felt like a giant serving of mutton biryani with all the good stuff, the bad stuff, the indulgent double serving with Badusha on the side, I would say. Bloated.
Are you sure? You're sure he did serve some Badusha?
It was a meal for the kings. Yeah. The movie was a bit like that, bloated and jam-packed with all the good stuff, the bad stuff. It was just comfort food for me, right? I am very heavily emotionally invested in the success and the continued movie career of Kamal Haasan, and him having a monster commercial hit in a movie that he produced himself. So for Raj Kamal movies having a hit of that kind at this time in his career is massive for a couple of reasons. One, it means he'll probably spend more time in the movies. He had proclaimed that he was going to stop acting and get into politics full time, and he had a resounding failure in the elections when he stood that was in 2021, which sort of left him at crossroads, because he had also sort of said he's not going to be doing any more movies. So what was he really going to do? Now, I don't care whether he's successful in politics or not, but not having Kamal Haasan in movies is something I cannot abide yet. So this really gives him another lease of life. Commercially, he's again, a viable actor at the box office, a hero at the box office. Because of that, I'm also glad that he failed in the elections, because that then allows him to spend more time here. You name a person in cinema, global cinema, and I'll give you a reason why Kamal Haasan is better than that person. Right? So, global at that. I'm just glad that he's got this new innings started now, and it'll continue. That's about it. Yeah, it's an okay film. It has some unbelievably good moments. It has great.
I love this. Talking for 5 minutes. Number 2, this, that. It's an okay film.
Exactly.
Beautiful summation. But yeah, no, this list is for that. Right? Whatever works, right? The stuff that gave us joy, the stuff that worked for us.
So you tell me about your thoughts on Vikram. Finally, we have a piece of content that both of us watched
Yes.
this year. So tell me about the context in which you watched Vikram, and tell me about your thoughts.
I went to watch Vikram on your recommendation, first of all, with your brother.
But I didn't recommend.
And then...
okay, let me go back and
yes, you recommended.
Okay. Yeah, okay, cool.
Yeah, so you recommended.
No, actually,
anyway, your brother.
I was actually quite underwhelmed when I came out of the movie. It shouldn't really be at number 2. It was, I had fun, but I was also like, okay, what is that? Yeah.
But watched it with your brother on your recommendation. We had an evening show of Vikram, followed by my third viewing of Top Gun Maverick. So we had like back-to-back tickets, and I'm glad we had Maverick after Vikram, because we came out underwhelmed. I think Mithun enjoyed it a lot more. He was obviously, there were a lot of references that I wouldn't get, right? So ringtones or some lines of dialogue or whatever else. So he was muttering to me on the side and telling me.
In fact, I wrote a blog post on this.
Yes, we should. I was thinking about that. We should link it at the end. Nitin's written a wonderful blog post, newsletter.
Whatever it is. Words. I'll have to find it actually. Yeah. In fact, that I had to stop. I stopped that list at 25 because I found 25 references to past Kamal Haasan films in Vikram, and I later in the comments and from other people on Twitter found out that there are more that I missed. So yeah, the movie is just full of. It's a very indulgent film in that sense. The director is an unabashed fanboy.
I felt it was fine. I would have liked a slightly restrained version of this movie where they gave a little more thought to the story itself. I think it was good to see Kamal back with a big hit, playing to hopefully younger audiences, and younger audiences getting introduced to older movies as well through a movie like this. I think that's of value anyway. I would like to have seen a better version of this movie.
Agreed. Yeah, I don't disagree with that at all.
So that was your number 2?
Yes. You didn't name anybody for me to...
I'm not going to pick an actor. I'm going to pick whatever. Quentin Tarantino.
Tarantino has done 9 movies. That Kamal Haasan has been in cinema for 63 years. I mean, let's... and this, by the way, this one thing is going to... like 90% of the names you throw out are going to have such a small body of work that they can't hold a candle to Kamal Haasan. Doesn't matter if what they did was so good, but they've just not done it over a sustained period of time, right? So, yeah.
That was your number 2, Lokesh Kanagaraj with Kamal in Vikram. My number 2, another show that ended this year.
Okay.
I'm constantly revealing you in.
No, by the way, I think, okay, go on. You tell me which one and then we will talk.
My number 2 show which ended this year, been running for the last, I've tried to stretch this out as much as running for the last 5 or 6 years.
5 or 6. Okay, yeah.
5-season show. But, this is a show called Better Things by Pamela Adlon.
What?
Yeah, no, we'll get to our shows that we wanted to talk about. But yeah, so Better Things by Pamela Adlon.
Are you kidding me? Okay, cool.
Hello, no, this is so. This is a show that anytime I thought about any episode of this show, I have been filled with emotion. Not like just tears or crying over, but could be laughter, could be just joy, anything. It's just so full of feeling. It's a show about, it's somewhat autobiographical. So Pamela Adlon is this actress who used to be a child actor, and then she's now moved into the next phase of her life. She's a single mother. She has 3 kids, and the show itself is based on an actor who was a child actor who has 3 kids and who lives with her mother as the neighbor. So it's very, very autobiographical to her life. It really touches upon everything that makes Pamela herself, or for that matter, Sam Fox, which is the character in the show. She's not just a single mother, she's also a daughter, she's also a friend, and she's a working actor. And all of these come together. Episode to episode, we've seen these kids grow up. I feel like I've seen a family, my family, go through all of the things that this show has gone through. And it's just a very bittersweet, funny, heartfelt show, talking about everything that she goes through being a mom, how her kids go through puberty and come out as teenagers on the other side. But also, the storytelling style is it's not a straightforward plot that moves. It's vignettes of little things that happen that kind of follow a similar theme. Largely, each episode is 3 or 4 kind of short stories that happen inside an episode that touch upon slightly different themes at each point. Ended with her and this entire makeshift family of friends that she's created, where the divorced husband rarely turns up, he's a loser, he's whatever, but she's also created this makeshift family around her kids, which is her best friends. I'll just give you a couple of examples of how these friends turn up, right? So I think season 3 ends with the eldest daughter's graduation.
Okay.
And she's getting ready and everybody's turned up in the house, and they've got like a dinner planned and all of that. And they're supposed to go for the actual graduation, and she's waiting for the dad to turn up. The dad, in typical fashion, divorced dad, last minute comes up with some excuse and doesn't turn up. Okay. And everybody's standing in this room and somebody's helping her with her makeup, somebody's going to take her out for, a tea after that, somebody else is going to set up everything for the dinner. There's this whole entire family friends group of hers who have all been almost surrogate parents. And they're all standing and they watch this girl turn to tears because her dad is not going to turn up. For the first time in that show, Sam doesn't know what to do. She's the mom, and she was hoping at least this time the dad will step up, and he didn't. And she's stuck. She doesn't know what to do and she doesn't have a solution. And slowly around the room, one by one, everybody starts saying, I'll be very proud to take you if you would let me accompany you to the graduation. And one by one it goes around the room. And it's so moving. I'm already starting to, here's your moment, I'm starting to fucking water up here. And finally she picks one of them, she says thank you, and she picks one. It's beautiful. She picks one, she says I'll go get ready, and she turns around to go.
Yeah.
And the person she picks, as he's walking, taking 2 steps forward, he looks at everyone else and he does one, yes, I got picked, I'm the man, whatever, so it's still lively and fun.
Got it.
And then everybody turns up, they do whatever.
We need Laurie's tail right now to
yes,
to come in. Clear your eyes, but yes.
This guy is her best friend, who's also gay, and his name in her phone, every time the phone rings when he calls, it says big gay husband.
Okay.
So, that's the level of family that's turned up in this. And much later in this season, there's a episode which starts with this guy and the eldest daughter. Both of them come walking out of the doors. They come and sit in the car, the camera's in the car, and they come and sit in the car in the front 2 seats, and we can see both of them talking to each other. And he says, how are you doing? And she says, I'm doing okay, I think. Shall I drop you home? She says, yeah, can you drop me home? I want to go and just spend some time with my sisters. And the camera pans out. And you see that the name of the building that they're in, it says Planned Parenthood. And he's taken her for a termination and brought her back, and it's a plot point that takes longer to get to the mother itself. She felt comfortable enough to call him, and he just dropped everything and went and helped her out. And there's lots like this. I mean, I picked two somewhat serious things, but there's a lot of fun stuff and everything else. But it's really about creating your makeshift family, and I think everybody who's watched the show feels like the Fox family is their family at this point. She has the same frustrations with her mom, who's staying opposite them, and she always says she loves her, but she also really frustrated with her mom. Her kids are growing up in different ways, and they're all behaving sometimes very nice, sometimes like total assholes.
Max! Duke! Family meeting!
I'm busy.
I would just like to speak to everybody in the same room at the same time. Because once upon a time, I had 3 daughters.
It's not that hard.
Once upon a time, I had 3 children.
I'm not a child anymore.
Once upon a time, I had 3 offspring cunt trophies who used to interact with me, and now they only interact with their screens.
All of that comes through the frustrations of being an aging actress in Hollywood.
Yeah.
The ins and outs of that. She struggles with that as well. Just a overall wonderful, wonderful show. And even now I think about different episodes and I just get filled with so much joy thinking about better things. Show ended this year.
Very cool.
Alright, so that was my number 2.
Clearly a show that moved you a lot, and I can see the theme. There's a lot of family and growing up and growth pangs in different settings, and children dealing with tough upbringings and parents dealing with tough situations to bring up their kids as well, right? Super.
But joyful. It's not like nothing in this ever made me, even that, it's a serious storyline, but for me the takeaway there was she was comfortable enough to call him, and he dropped everything and came and helped her out. And, and later they deal with it like she's too scared to tell her mom, and he has to tell her, and there's a beautiful scene there where the mom wants to know but doesn't want to know the details. But also eventually he just says, look, she called me. I was there for her.
Yeah.
And, it's okay, we'll move on. That kind of thing. I basically went for things that moved me and that stayed with me, that I think of well after the shows have ended or whatever. That's kind of how I picked my list. Okay, before we move to our number 1, let's just do a quick rundown of your 5 to 2 and I'll do my 5 to 2 so we know where we are.
Yeah.
At number 5 you had?
At number 5 I had Tallumala. At number 5 you had?
Derry Girls and Miss Marvel. At number 4 I had Reservation Dogs, and you had?
Home Alone Parts 1 and 2. I had White Lotus Season 2 at number 3.
Number 3 I had Atlanta, which also ended this year. At number 2 I had Better Things by Pamela Adlon, and at number 2 you had
Vikram.
Okay.
Alright, so
that
we
was
go to number 1 then.
So we've clearly lost one of the 2 shows. I expected you would put both, so fine. We'll see what goes. We'll drop it in honorable mentions. It's all good.
Yes, there is honor. Absolutely. And Better Call Saul Season 6 is my number 1. And it's just nice to have something that both of us watched, so both of us can talk again. Why don't you go first? Yeah.
Okay, so Better Call Saul, coming out of the Breaking Bad universe. I think it'll be some time before we can really answer if it's a question at all.
Yeah.
For anyone who wants to say it's better or not as good as Breaking Bad. But keeping that aside for a minute.
Yeah.
All the doubt that was there when they first started the show, a lot of naysayers saying, why would Vince Gilligan go back to this world? I mean, we all get it, why you would go back for mining the IP, but also this is a fool's errand to try to go after such a great show and
why would you
something else inside.
And why would you go with Saul Goodman of all people?
Yeah.
Right?
All of those people can shut up now, right?
Oh,
so that's
absolutely.
Not even now. They could have shut up within the end of season 1 itself. It was fairly obvious that these guys knew what they were doing. And they've honed a lot of their storytelling from the Breaking Bad days as well. You can see The craft is top notch, the writing, the understanding of characters. Bob Odenkirk doing like the work of a lifetime.
Yes, absolutely.
He's had a long storied career as a comedian,
yeah,
and on and off as a dramatic actor. But to get something like this where he really got to showcase, outstanding.
And a lot more than just comedy chops as well. Yeah, absolutely. Is Better Call Saul better than Breaking Bad? Debate. I don't think it matters. I look at it as a continuum, really. I look at it as a 11 season long single show which started off at a point in time, set the story of a few characters, and then decided to jump back in time and say the backstory of one of the characters. That's at least how I look at it.
Yeah.
But when you're talking about Better Call Saul, Breaking Bad will always be a part of the discussion, right? Purely, if for no other reason, just because of the time in history when both these shows came out. Breaking Bad came out in 2009. Twitter was not even popular back then, right? Most of us didn't have smartphones in our pockets. The world has changed. I think 2009 was the year Breaking Bad first aired, right? I might be wrong, but around 8 or 9, I think.
8, I think. The year of the writer's strike.
That makes it 8 makes it even more stark. It's a show that came in 2008, and now we are in 2022, where this I'll call this a single 11 season show has come to an end. The world has changed in immeasurable ways, right? Between 2008 and 2015, I think through the run of Breaking Bad, I would say really the world changed. All of us got smartphones. Mobile internet became a thing. So much change, right? Social media became a thing. Attention spans went to pot, really. And here you have a show, obviously the same people who put Breaking Bad together, work of a lifetime, as you said, came back and did another show which was longer, slower, at a time when the world was changing and going in the other direction. At a time when Netflix became a global phenomenon, streaming took off and all of that. Now, that by itself is astounding. And to have success the way they did and to do it so well is in itself an accomplishment. Secondly, it's always easy if you're starting with a blank slate and you're making a script as you go, right?
Yeah.
At the start, as they're beginning to write Better Call Saul, we already know, forget them, we already know Mike Ehrmantraut is dead. We already know Gustavo Fring is dead, right? We know the Salamancas are all gone. We know that Walter White's story is over. Jesse Pinkman's not coming back, right? Like, you don't have the tools to surprise your audience anymore, right? If you've taken away all these main characters. And you've also written yourself into all sorts of strange corners, right? There is a meth lab. Now, where did that come from? Why is Hector Salamanca sitting on a wheelchair? Why does he have a bell on his wheelchair, right? Why is he the way he is, right? I'm sure none of this was thought of when they decided to cast him the way they did in Breaking Bad. It's also fun, I guess, to go back when your slate is half filled and you try and join dots to make it, to create these backstories. But it's also bloody challenging. You need to give that wheelchair, you need to give that bell a backstory. And they give it a glorious backstory, right? The bell is, in itself, right? Lalo Salamanca gives him the bell. The same Lalo who, at the end of Better Call Saul, finds himself at the bottom of the pit, where the meth lab is built. The same meth lab where Jesse and Walter White are going to build their fortunes, which they then set to fire many, many years later. To be very honest, this show, beyond a point, after Chuck McGill's, spoilers for Better Call Saul, after Chuck McGill's death, really the only question was what is going to happen to Kim. And hence, how is Jimmy going to become Saul Goodman, right? And for 3 seasons, they don't pull the trigger on those stories. They take their time over it and they build it up, and they do such a good job. I could go on and on about the show. We probably should do a standalone episode at some point on Better Call Saul.
I think we should.
Yeah.
I suspect probably somewhere around Emmy nomination time we can have the conversation depending on who doesn't get nominated. But yeah, we should do one proper deep dive into this. I don't think a 5-minute, 10-minute detour on this is going to do justice, and we should. So we'll do that later. So yeah, that was your number 1.
Absolutely.
Better Call Saul. Vince Gilligan's follow-up.
And I look forward to what he's doing next with Rhea Seehorn. And that'll be fun. It's not going to be in this universe, but I'll do whatever. I'll watch whatever Gilligan is going to do next.
You don't no betting against Gilligan anymore.
I never did, but yeah, I absolutely won't in the future. Yeah. And in fact, before we go away, that moment, there's one scene featuring Kim Wexler and Jesse Pinkman in the last episode, in the penultimate episode of Better Call Saul. Probably the peak moment of content that I watched this year would be that for me. That scene with both of them and the spiritual souls of both the shows coming together.
Yes.
And going away. Yeah.
Right way to bring that character back and right way to parallel both of these characters.
Yes.
Very nicely done. Alright. That was your number 1, Better Call Saul. And now for my number 1. I'm just going to send you a little picture on WhatsApp. You can look at this.
Should I read this out?
Yeah, I mean, more importantly, read the date on it. So this is the ticket for Top Gun Maverick, which is my number 1.
Yes.
Nitin Sundar, can you tell me what date I watched this on?
On the 12th of December 2022, Narendra celebrated Rajnikant's birthday by watching Top Gun Maverick. What a surprise!
Top Gun Maverick.
What a surprise! Yeah, finally I guessed something right. Okay.
Yeah, obviously watched it a lot of times, but they did a re-release before Avatar. They did an IMAX re-release. Of course, I was not going to miss a chance to watch this again.
So this was. Do you have a count now? How many times you watched this movie?
7, maybe 8, 7. I think.
I think you can. I think you can do the heist blindfolded now, right? If I strap you into one of those planes.
Oh yes, yeah. I don't even need that plotted course.
You don't need you don't need the course. Yes.
So I went to the theater with her, and you won't believe what they said.
Who the hell is that?
Maverick to range control. Entering Point Alpha. Confirm green range.
Maverick, range control. Green range is confirmed. I don't see an event scheduled for you, sir.
Well, I'm going anyway.
Nice.
Setting time to target, 2 minutes, 15 seconds.
So mine was Top Gun Maverick.
Yeah. My guess of what your number 1 would be was Top Gun Maverick as well, which is why I left it out of my list. It probably would have been number 2 after Better Call Saul. But yeah, no surprise. Well picked.
Top Gun Maverick brought us back to theaters, brought us back to cheering in the theater, to gripping seats, to being transported, and to just having like a fully visceral and physical reaction, especially after the few years that we've had where we've not really had the opportunity to go to a theater and enjoy something in the big screen.
Yeah.
Here was a movie that told us why the big screen is still important even after everything has come out on streaming and you have stuff that you can watch on your phone. Here's a reason to go back and watch something on the biggest screen possible.
But enough about RRR. Let's talk about...
Well done. There's lots to say about Top Gun. All of it is the usual stuff, all the flying, all the whatever that that Tom Cruise did. I want to talk about a couple of things because at this point I've watched the movie so many times and I've gone through so much of it in different ways that different things have started to stick out. So I wanted to talk about one particular scene and one particular aspect of another character. So the scene I want to talk about is the Val Kilmer scene.
Yeah.
So he comes to meet Val Kilmer, who plays Iceman from the first movie. Val Kilmer in real life is suffering from throat cancer and cannot actually speak. So, it's a very touching scene. It's got Val speaking through a computer. He types on a screen and Tom Cruise is reading it. Now just imagine from a filmmaking perspective, right? You've got effectively 3 things in the scene. You've got Tom Cruise, you've got Val Kilmer, and then you've got the screen, which is working as Val Kilmer's voice or whatever. So you have to edit that conversation and that dialogue to have the same kind of strength it would have if Val Kilmer was speaking by himself.
Yeah.
And I think they did a masterful job. Like,
fabulous.
Even if you watch that scene again, and even when he has to repeat that idea of, you need to get over this and go out there, there's a line that they flash through twice because it's a repetition of a line, but they do it as if they're doing it in a normal conversation. Somebody will have said the line again where he goes back to the screen again. I thought that was very masterful and gutsy of a movie like this, which is full of action, to say, okay, we're going to slow down now and we're going to talk about some character stuff here and bring it all down to this.
I think it was very well done. Yeah. In fact, on that sequence specifically, I think I've mentioned this to you. I watched this film thrice in cinema halls, which is itself a record for me.
I'm proud of you.
I have not watched any movie in the cinema hall thrice before. So yeah, this is a record. And I watched it first. The first time I watched it was not in IMAX because in Bangalore, for some reason, the IMAX run was curtailed because you had Jurassic Park, whatever the latest crap that came out, had to take the few IMAX screens. So by the time I was free to watch this film, it was off IMAX, so I ended up going to this godforsaken cinema hall called Inox Garuda Mall. So advice to our listeners, stay away. The first time I watched was there, very average sound quality, not the greatest screen either. And an interval block plonked in the middle of a sequence. Absolutely no context, right? It was right in the middle. It was just before the Val Kilmer conversation. And I had taken my son and my niece as well along. Me and Shruti, me and my wife took the kids and went. The kids wanted to run around and play around, get some popcorn, whatever. By the time we got back to our seats, we missed the Val Kilmer scene. The first time I watched, it was done. Right? And they were on the beach playing volleyball when we came back in. And then I rewatched the film at PVR IMAX, at the Nexus IMAX. I think the actual interval block comes at a different point in the IMAX. It comes at a cleaner cut, obviously. The third time I watched it was, this was at the Washington DC National Air and Space Museum, which has, it has an IMAX theater, a really good one, where they ideally only screen movies that are thematically related, I believe, to the place, right? And obviously Top Gun was running there for a long time. And yeah, this time it was the American experience, so there were no toilet breaks, no interval blocks, and they were not missed. Yeah, great sequence. The movie does slow down at that point, but it totally earns the right to slow down, right? I think I had never watched the first part, by the way, before this one came. I just thought, some Tom Cruise film which probably hasn't aged too well, action sequences that are a little outdated. The movie is okay, right?
All true.
But now that the second part came, I said, okay, now let's watch this so that I know what the backstory is. Right down to the actor they get to play the son, right, resembling his dad. I think it really works as a movie that is separated by, 35 years.
Those 35 years are in the story.
In the story, exactly, right? So beautifully done. And hat tip here to Vikram one more time. Where also the 36-year time frame is, they try to earn it, but I think Top Gun does the better job, must be said. They totally earn it. And so you feel the gravity of it when they meet.
Because a lesser movie could just have had the movie start with, there's this mission that has to be flown, but nobody knows how to do it. And then Val Kilmer says, I know one guy. And then he calls up, and then Tom Cruise answers. And he says, why are you calling me after so many years and all that? And it could have been that. But here, and because they ended as antagonists, really, they kind of became friends, but he was the antagonist of that movie. But here you see that there's 35 years of friendship that has come out of that. First movie. He knows everything that's happening with Tom Cruise's life. Tom Cruise knows that, he's unwell and whatever else. He knows the wife. All of that. I think they really take time to, and these are all little things, but I think it really adds up and shows that there's a weight to relationship. The other thing I wanted to talk about was whoever has styled Jennifer Connelly in this movie deserves like a Lifetime Achievement Award because she is so damn attractive and beautiful in this movie. The clothes that she's wearing, the white linen pants, I don't know if you remember, she had these with the blue sweater, she wears
with her hands
white
in the pockets,
pants.
She walks into the house.
Yes, oh my god. That was amazing.
Amazing. And on the boat as well, right?
Which is again, she's the one teaching him how to use, she's confident on the boat and he doesn't know what's going on.
And the boat is at a tilt and she's wearing those pants again, like so smart.
Yeah, like a boss, she's just riding that boat and he's fully lost.
By the way, Tom Cruise is a good name to throw at the Kamal Hassan challenge, but I think Kamal Hassan still wins. Yeah.
I have my own issues with that, but there are two different kinds of, and this is Tom Cruise now as well, so there's a different.
Which is why I said he's a good name, right? There aren't too many names that would make the cut. Tom Cruise, I think, is a worthy contender to make the cut. We leave it at that.
Fair enough. Okay, so that was my number one, Top Gun Maverick. I have another little game. It'll make sense at the
Okay.
end. So in the MCU, completely off topic, but I'll bring it back. Don't worry. Have faith.
Dormammu, you brought it back.
Yes. So in the MCU, Iron Man suits have a voice, right?
Yeah.
The first voice is this Jarvis.
Yeah.
Do you know who plays Jarvis?
I don't actually. No.
Okay, so the voice of Jarvis is Paul Bettany.
Okay.
Who then becomes Vision. So the voice
Yeah,
itself,
yeah.
the actor comes out and becomes Vision. That's in Age of Ultron. At that point, he uploads a new AI into his suit.
Yes. Yes.
And he says Friday protocol has been set or whatever. And there's
Yeah.
a lady who speaks. Do you know who that lady is? What's the voice? Who's the
Jennifer
voice that is-
Connelly.
No.
No, I have no idea.
That's an actress named Kerry Condon. She's in Better Call Saul. She plays Stacey Ermintrout. She's the daughter-in-law of Mike. Irish actress.
Oh, she's the daughter-in-law of Mike. Oh, got it. Okay, okay. Wow. What a crossover. Okay.
And then he gives the suit to Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm.
In the first Spider-Man movie, that suit has a voice.
Yeah, okay.
You guessed now. So that suit is Jennifer Connelly.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Sorry.
Yeah, you jumped the gun and guessed, but you guessed. So that is Jennifer Connelly. By the way, Jennifer Connelly and Paul Bettany are married. So those two suits have...
Oh. They are well suited for each other. Did they have Badusha at there waiting?
So there you go. Top Gun Maverick connected to Better Call Saul through the magic of the MCU.
And Basha. Okay.
And Basha, of course. Let's go through some very quick honorable mentions. I know we are really running long on time, but I have to throw out a few names. I won't give a lot of description. But I'll just start running.
Firstly, I don't think it's fair to relegate Barry to honorable mentions. Let us call out what happened here very clearly. There is this famous meme from Pakistan cricket where the ball went up in the air for a simple catch, right? So Shoaib Malik was one of the fielders and I think Saeed Ajmal was the other fielder. Either of them could have taken it. Both of them with cupped hands were looking up at the sky, hoping that the other person was going to take it, assuming the other person was going to take it, and both of them leave it and the ball plops right in between. Anyway, the reason I referenced that catch was you thought I'll pick Barry, I thought you'll pick Barry. Both of us didn't pick Barry. It's not fair to say that Barry is now honorable mention. It was potentially number one on both our lists. So this is a special category. It's the zero category.
It's the zero.
Zero rating.
Fair enough. Also, I think important to clarify, it took me 30 seconds to get it, that we're talking about Barry the show at this point and not Barry the clip earlier.
not the Badusha. Barry. Okay, yeah. Of course. Yes.
Yeah, so this is Barry from Bill Hader and Alec Berg. Bill Hader plays an assassin, a hitman rather, who gets into an acting class and then things go. He wants to also be an actor, but he's also got many other things going on and his previous life won't really leave him and he's unable to fully let go.
Yeah.
Barry has been really pushing boundaries, breaking the idea of what a comedy or a drama or an action thriller show could be on a week-to-week basis. I think every season they've managed to do at least one episode which is just out there in terms of the action, choreography and everything else.
Yeah.
And for me, what's really surprising is you don't expect that this would be a Bill Hader thing, right? Bill Hader, you think, would come with all of his comedy, but given all his time on SNL and everything else that he's done, it's always been a comedy thing. But I think he's really shining in a dramatic role. And being one of the creators, I've listened to a lot of interviews, read a lot of articles. His input on even a lot of the action and the thriller and the way they set up that stuff.
Yeah.
You know, it's not just the action, but also the way they decide to shoot it. It's also so whimsical. There's like random music choices on top of that. And they're all blended so beautifully, right? There's action, but there's also random comedy.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's. I think we spoke about this some time back. Shows that are unpredictable seem to be the flavor of the season, where you don't know what's going to happen next, right? And there are quite a few shows. You spoke about Atlanta. There was I May Destroy You.
Yeah.
I think last year, and there have been a bunch of shows of that ilk, right? We've spoken ourselves about Lovecraft Country and
Yeah.
Watchmen, which go and do standalone episodes that
Yeah.
almost don't gel with the rest of the show at all. Barry obviously does a lot of that. I think the two action showcase episodes, there's one with a girl, or I don't remember, was it a girl or a
Yes.
boy? This is not
Girl.
a repeat of the hump.
You're now running into this girl or boy issue. It was a girl.
It was a girl, yeah, who's learning
Daughter of a
karate, or
Yeah.
who's daughter of a stuntman. She's learning martial arts, and she
Yeah.
kicks ass. That was season 2, and in season 3, there's the one with the bike chases. Yeah,
But even there, as they're taking that bike through those
Yeah,
cars that
it's-
shot it,
yeah.
that guy tries to hand over the gun and he
Yeah.
just whacks the other guy.
Yeah.
So they'll just
Right
keep
in the
doing
middle,
all
right?
sorts of nonsense.
Yeah, proper genre mashing, right? So there is,
Yeah.
it's like you mentioned, right? It is a comedy, a hitman who's trying to rediscover himself as an actor, and then but it very quickly segues from comedy into into a thriller genre, into will he get away with it? Seems to be the big thing, and how Barry closes the loops. That all the open ends that threaten to sort of get him caught. I think the last season just goes deep into the human condition, right?
Yeah,
And,
a lot of
into
guilt.
Yeah,
With, what's his name? Mr.
Kusinov.
Mr. Kuznets.
I love you, Mr. Kuzma. Do you love me? Can you say it? I love you, Barry. Can you say it again?
All the guilt that he has with Kuzno and how he's trying to make it better for Kuzno.
Yeah, and that side of things, like, can he get away with all of this? Can he fundamentally now be a good man, or can he wipe out the past of having been a hitman?
I also liked how Kuzino finally gets to. He's trying to act in different places. His final triumph of acting is the
Is to get him
climax
caught.
where he gets Barry caught.
Yes.
Yeah, great show.
I think Barry for me is a sign of what you could expect from a TV show in 2022, whereas Better Call Saul is not that, right? It's 30 minutes long per episode.
Yes.
It mashes up so many genres. You get a lot out of Barry, right? You could enjoy it at the surface level without choosing to really go deep into the character studies that they're trying to play, and you have a great comedy show with traces of humor in it, or you could go the whole hog, but it's 30 minutes a day. Enjoy yourself, right?
Great show. All right, one of the worthy contenders, honorable mentions on my list, We Own This City, which is David Simon back in Baltimore with a spiritual successor to The Wire. This is based on the scandal of the Gun Trace Task Force. So he finally starts to contend with police brutality and then the killing of Freddie Gray and those
Got it.
protests that happened in Baltimore.
Didn't he do another show in between?
He's done multiple, but this is the first time he's come back to Baltimore. He's done 2-3
okay.
shows in the middle. Great performance by John Bernthal in the middle as the main character, Sergeant Wayne Jenkins.
Got it.
I know you watch The Wire. You should definitely check this out.
Will do, yeah. First worthy contender from my side would be Succession. I loved the first couple of seasons. I think the third season was largely a little bit more of the same. I think it's getting into a loop of few things working really well, and they seem to be milking it now. I'd like to see something new coming out of Succession in the next season.
Next, I want to talk about The Bear.
Ah,
Recent show about a young chef who comes back to his hometown in Chicago to take over the sandwich shop of the family. His brother, who was running it, killed himself a few months before the show starts. Brother also played again in just one scene by John Bernthal again, who is quietly doing little bits here and there. Again, 30-minute show, comedy, but also drama. Like you said, I think this is the format that people seem to be settling in, where they don't need to be one or the other.
yeah, exactly.
You don't need to necessarily be just a comedy or just a drama. You can tell a story and it can do the story can be what it needs to be at any point of time. Great performances again in the middle of all that. But a very sweet show about trying to create something beautiful. They're all there because the shop itself is a part of the neighborhood and a part of the culture over there. So they're all trying to keep that alive. At the same time, he's still not dealt with the loss of his brother. So that's his arc through the season.
Interesting.
So that was The Bear. What else do you have?
I have Bullet Train, which was a movie that I really enjoyed.
Nice.
Lots of fun stuff happening in it. Lots of small little details that all pay off in the end. I remember there was a big inflatable teddy bear or something, which is floating through the train, and it has a role to play right at the end of the movie. Brad Pitt in fine form, I felt, and I forget the names of the two guys who the soul twins who are in the killers. What are their names? I've forgotten their names.
I'll tell you the actor names. I don't know character names because I have not watched the movie, so I have to watch it.
Oh.
But I think that'll be an easy watch. I thought you watched it. Didn't happen when it was in the theater, but I do need to watch it. One of the twins is Aaron Taylor Johnson, who was in the MCU as well. He was Scarlet Witch's brother, the fast guy, Quicksilver.
Correct.
In Age of Ultron and died. And he was also in Tenet as the guy who's running all the ops. He's the one who's explaining everything.
Yes, correct.
That's Aaron Taylor Johnson. And the second, of course, we already spoke about the one and only Brian Tyree Henry.
Yeah.
Who's trying to do some kind of Cockney or Scottish or something accent. I know I need to watch it. I haven't seen it yet.
Oh, it's a very watchable film with incredibly good action also.
One of the many cameos that run through the cameos or whatever smaller roles that run through the film is again also from Atlanta. Zazie Beetz is one of the assassins or something within that train.
You also have Channing Tatum, by the way, in a totally random cameo. For a moment, the role is so small that you actually wondered, did that guy just look like him? Was that him? It was him. Yeah.
So a fun story around that. So The Lost City is Sandra Bullock and Channing Tatum. Sandra Bullock's an author. Channing Tatum is the model who appears on the covers of her books, who has become more famous than the stories themselves. And they get caught in some treasure map, some whatever. But Brad Pitt is there for a little bit in that. So they basically did a swap. Brad Pitt came for a cameo in that movie. And helped out Sandra Bullock, which is why she's here as the handler. Though he's there a lot more in Lost City than she is in...
Sandra Bullock doesn't work at all in this movie, actually,
I think she's literally just there.
Just there,
but in this thing, he's there in an entire scene. He's the one who starts to save them, but then comedy happens and...
Got it.
What I have next is a British miniseries called This Is Going to Hurt. This is based on a memoir of a doctor who works in the OBGYN, Obs and Gynae, as they call it there, in the NHS system. So, reduced resources, bad work hours, and it's just about the stress. It's darkly funny, it's very stressful, but it's also about the emotional pressures of working in that kind of environment. You don't really get the rest you need, and the kind of mistakes that can happen even if you want to help somebody.
Interesting.
What can go wrong just because you're tired or just because you don't have enough rooms or enough, medicines or material or whatever else. 6 episodes and not just serious, also funny. All right, what do you have next?
I have Woman King as a worthy contender, a movie that we have spoken about quite a bit and enjoyed a lot. So yeah, please do check out our episode on The Woman King, which by the way never released in India. I'm still in shock thinking about that.
Odd.
Yeah.
But it's showing up on Book My Show, so I think they're waiting to... I think some distributors picked up the rights. They're hoping that award season will have some noise around it, so then they can release then. Is probably what they're doing. So hopefully in Feb, it might come out. I have a few other things I want to talk about. I recently finished watching Bad Sisters. This is Catastrophe Sharon Horgan. It's basically 5 sisters, and one of them is married to an absolute prick. And the other 4 decide the only way out of this is to kill him. So the show starts with him dead and the insurance investigators trying to check if there's anything fishy about it, and then flashback and you figure out everything that happened and how he's been responsible for various bad things in each of the sisters' lives.
And it's been renewed for a 2nd season, so it's the story is not yet closed.
The story is closed for that season, but
so
I can see ways in which they can continue after this also. I also have this show called Bluey, which I don't want to talk too much about. I actually want to get you to watch a few episodes so we can do a little longer on that, because that's really, really something I really want to talk about.
Bluey, the Australian animated series.
Australian animated series. It's ostensibly a kids show, but I think it's also a real good parenting show.
Okay.
I have recommended this earlier, but now I'm strongly recommending. Watch it with your son. I think once you watch a few episodes, I genuinely want to do something more about Bluey. It's it's a magical piece of content and storytelling. 2-3 other things that I just started. There's a show called Sort Of.
Okay, you sort of started watching it.
Correct. Season 2 just came out. It's a show from a Pakistani-Canadian person, a gender fluid person called Bilal Beg. And they're trying to figure out who they are, how it fits in with their family, and how it fits in with their life. Very refreshing. Again, no one is defining anything. Like the word non-binary appears only in the 3rd episode, where the mom finally says, "Oh, so are you non-binary?" And the response from them is simply, did you just read that in an article and that's why you're saying non-binary? Without actually accepting or rejecting that label either. So it's not preachy. It's not trying to define any of these things, but it's just somebody who's trying to live their life. There's also something that I'm powering through today is a show called Slow Horses.
Okay. Why are you powering through it today?
Because it just caught on it's a spy thriller, 6 episodes.
Dodie doing Dodie things. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So I started it slowly the last couple of, it's actually from last year. Season 2 came out and everybody was raving again and I missed it out last year. So I started season 1. But today, the 3rd episode hit the pace of the spy thriller and now everybody's chasing everybody. There's a lot of tradecraft. So if I know you watch The Americans, so stuff about where there's a hidden key, how do you evade somebody who's trying to follow you, what are the processes, what are the procedure, all of that. It's also produced by Graham Yost of Justified. So it has a little bit of Justified DNA in it. But this is all set in the UK. It's MI5. All the disgraced and failed agents. Okay, people who've made dramatic mistakes, people who've left a top secret file on the tube, people who've accidentally arrested the wrong person, all sorts of the screw ups of MI5. All of those agents get sent to this place, which is called Slough. It's called Slough House.
We should create a dubstep or whatever. Slough House.
Yeah, so it's called Slough House. That's the name of the place, SLOUGH.
Oh, so the name of the show is a pun on that.
Yeah, it's slow horses. They are the slow horses of MI5 and they're given all stupid jobs. They're given you can't fire them because they know sensitive stuff, but you also don't want to give them anything to do. So they're just sitting there at a desk and doing literally nothing. Their job is to sit and do nothing, but they get caught up in something and whatever. One of the things I did want to talk about was both the Tom Cruise videos that came out. The first one of him on the plane introducing the movie and introducing the Mission Impossible trailer. Yeah, that's just Tom Cruise being Tom Cruise, talking to us and telling us how much he appreciates us for watching all of his movies, but at the same time hanging off of a plane and just saying, "See you at the movies," right? And then the second one
he does the stunt, which I think everybody's watched. If you've not watched that, then what are you doing listening to this podcast?
So that one and the new one that came out, I don't know if you saw it, where he's
just saying
"Thank you for watching." Yeah, one is he's standing on the plane and he goes.
Okay, no, I've not seen
this. One is him skydiving. Somebody else, he's talking as he's spinning around and somebody else is flying with him. They're both in the air going up and down, of course. And he's spinning round and round, but he's basically saying we're still continuing to shoot. But thank you for all the love and see you in 2023 or whatever. But yeah, that's Tom Cruise being Tom Cruise. Again, pieces of content that gave me a lot of joy this year. But yeah, we spoke about Top Gun, so I didn't want to spend too much time on it.
Yeah, before we close, Dodie, what are you looking forward to the most? One single piece of content that you're looking forward to in 2023.
Oh, I wanted to do a whole episode on this. Okay, fine. But I think the single biggest thing that I'm looking forward to is Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1.
Okay, alright, cool.
I can't start and then stop immediately. It's a huge week or 2 weeks. I think it's a week. Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning, and the next week has Oppenheimer, Christopher Nolan.
Okay.
And along with Oppenheimer is also Barbie by Greta Gerwig, which we'll talk about. We'll do a whole thing. But anyway, What are you looking forward to next year?
I look forward to catching up on all the shows that you recommended during the course of this episode. I look forward to Indian 2 for sure.
Of course.
Other than that, yeah, I'll wait. I'll wait for the reviews to come in and then I'll watch stuff.
So thank you. This was quite a marathon episode talking about our top 5/7, 8 plus another 15, 20 honorable mentions. I think we could have gone on easily for another hour or so if we had the time, but I think this is a reasonable place to stop. I hope you're inspired to watch some of these shows, or at least try out some of these shows. Very worthy pieces of art that have come out in the last year.
Absolutely, yeah. The list of stuff that took the cake and some things that took the Badshah in 2022.
Let's also quickly plug some of the stuff we've been doing.
Yes, the Bits and Pieces Cricket Podcast was started in the first week of January in 2022. We've published an episode every Sunday for the last 52 weeks. So that
congratulations.
Thank you so much.
That's a lot of work. So well done.
Yes, and it's been great fun.
Also, you've been doing a lot of writing.
Not so much, actually. You're the one who's been doing a lot of writing. I think I've hit writer's block. I was writing quite frequently on cricket for Money Control, but the Indian cricket team has been very uninspiring of late.
Not giving you enough to write about.
Or giving me too much to lament about and not enough to write coherently about. So,
you've reached that uncle's complaining scene.
There also I've reached uncle's complaining scene.
But it's not just cricket, right? You also did, you branched out a little bit. You did one thing on Rajni, and you're now
That's true.
got a new budding career as a travel writer as well. So if anybody wants to know what are the places to eat, the best places to eat at in Dubai, please look up Nitin's article.
Yeah, I would credit the Indian cricket team again for forcing me to branch out of cricket writing into other things. Yeah, I've also been doing a bit of live streaming thrice a week with my good friend Tony Sebastian, and that's available on the Roposo app and on Glance. It's something we started off late in this year, and we intend to keep it going in 2023. Let's see how far that goes. We end up having immense fun doing that, much like all the podcasts that we put together. So hopefully the viewers also.
Good. I think a year of content creation for you and for me. I've also been writing quite a bit on moneycontrol.com. We'll put links to both of our, do we call it an author page? Whatever, which has the list of all of our articles.
Index
into the show notes. But yeah, that's been fun. And this podcast also has been fun. So thank you everybody for listening. Please do keep sending in your feedback. If you have any more corrections, and please send all of your feedback either on email to yointermission@gmail.com, or you can ping us on Twitter @yointermission. Thank you, everybody. Have a great end of the year. Enjoy yourselves. And we'll see you on the other side with more episodes, more content, more movies, more TV shows. It's a whole new year, and it's going to be a whole new set of content to look at.
Yes, and more Galata as well. So see you all in 2023, and see you at the movies, as Tom Cruise said.
See you at the movies. Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye. Enjoy.
You have a very safe and happy holiday. We'll see you at the movies.